Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another webinar from Nature Writing for Children series, brought to you by Azim Premji University, part of the Seeking Sustainability Initiative. You know, Usually through these webinars, we bring forward stories of nature conservation through authors. Just a minute, I think. So let's see. My apologies, there was a window open. So through these webinars, we tend to bring forth stories on conservation through various authors, and what their process was in writing books, how did they come about these topics, and just to delve deeper into this genre of nature writing for children. This has been running for past many months, almost 2 years now, and through these exchanges with authors, we have learned a lot about this whole writing process as well as the genre as well. How did they take up, and it usually happened to be in the initial days. We came to realize it was more of an accidental thing, but now it's more process oriented, and this is the reason that we are continuing with these series and just having these conversations. We are also at the cusp of offering a certificate course on nature writing for children. If anyone of you is interested in that, you can check out our university link. Yeah. So without much ado, let me call on the guest today that we have is a very noted writer, Prerna Singh Bindra. Let me confess one thing. Typically, all of our webinars till date have been based on books which have been released. And last month also I had announced when I had announced Prerna will be our next guest. It was for a book she had already written. When I grow up, I want to be a tiger. But we just realized that we are at a very opportune time when her latest book has just released. I just saw it's available on Amazon today. Uh, uh, when I met the Mama Bear. So we are going to talk to her about all these fantastic books she has written. She's been a very active voice on conservation and environment, part of numerous government committees, and so on and so forth. She has also been involved in setting up protected areas in Uttarakhand as well. And right now she's also pursuing an academic degree, a PhD from Cambridge University. So thank you so much, Prerna, and welcome on board to this series.
Thanks so much, Shashwat. I'm delighted to be here. This is sorry. I Thanks for the kind introduction, and very excited to be here and to be on this prestigious platform. And looking forward to chatting about wildlife, books, nature writing, especially for kids and others. So yeah,
Prerna, without much ado, let's start with the first book of yours, the one that is, just released. And when I met the Mama Bear, it's a very unique book. Yes, it's a very unique book. As the intro says, it's about a forest guard Priya story, right? If you can just tell us what it's about, how did you come up about the story, and just give us a brief outlook into it.
so obviously I'm not going to let the cat or the bear out of the bag, right? Because I do want you all to read it. But I'd love to give you a teaser. And before I do, I want to thank Maya Ramaswamy, who's done these very striking illustrations, and of course, the publisher Speaking Tiger. But most of all, this is not my book. See, the author is usually one, unless you kind of. But I think the forest guard whose story this is, or who narrated the story to me, and of course a mama bear who did not narrate the story to me, but I think if you listen, if you are sensitive, if your heart is open, if you don't have walls or presumptions or prejudices, animals speak to you, they communicate, right? And I think they are the greatest teachers. That taught me everything, everyone, right from my dog to the wildlife that I come across so much. So about this, sorry, to get back to this book, I went to Melghat Tiger Reserve, this absolutely incredible, lesser known, but one of our first tiger reserves, birthed in 1973 when Project Tiger was born in the heart of India, central India, Maharashtra. And I met, so as we were sort of actually heading out of the reserve, fate. um, I met this two bright young women in their khakis, and I'd always wanted to be a. Um, I have great respect for forest staff, and I think they really are unsung army, Green Army, who so few people know about, and in the worst of odds, they protect our wildlife. So I love listening to them. I love spending time with them. And I stopped to say hello, and they said, "Arey madam, आप कहाँ से आए?" And we started chatting, and they said, चलिए हम आपको अपना जंगल दिखाते हैं. And of course, I mean, I couldn't turn such an invitation down. And then one of them um, actually asked me then, आप क्या करते हैं? And all, when I said मैं लिखती भी हूँ और मैं वाइल्ड लाइफ में भी काम करती हूँ. And she said, "Acha, आप लिखते हैं?" And her eyes, like, they just twinkled and shone, and she was very excited. She said, "मेरे पास एक story है." I said, "Acha." She said, "आप लिखेंगे?" I said, "आप story सुनाइए." And so she narrated this incredible incident, about a mama bear, which I'm not going to talk about, but which happened one wonderful night. And it was really a very beautiful story, and I've heard many of them over time. I mean, sitting one conversation, or just वो आग के सामने रात को अगर आप फॉरेस्ट गार्ड्स के मतलब फॉरेस्ट गार्ड्स के साथ बैठो. I mean, there are books and books that is, but she said, "आप will you tell this story to the world?" मतलब उसने अपने ढंग से बोला, and I promised her I would. Now this was about 5 years back, maybe one earlier. And at some point, I just sat and belted it out, and then I forgot about it. Then, as usually happens, I just shared it with a friend of mine, and she said, "Arey, this is a good story. Why don't you submit it to a publisher?" So I just asked a publisher friend. I said, "Padhiye," and she read it, and she said, "Hey, this is great. We would like to publish it." Then COVID happened, so वो पड़ी रही वहां पे. And then suddenly, in a flurry, it was published, and so here it is. I'm quite excited about it. And also, it's of course a story about the mama bear, but it is about a mother bear and her lovely two young cubs. But it's also the lovely young cub of the forest guard, and so it interweaves very strangely, the challenges that women face, is particularly in fields such as these, and bringing up young children, and the interplay of emotions. So, and all of these is, yeah. So I don't know. I'm waiting to hear. It's still not released, and I'm quite nervous right now. But all thanks to the forest guard, and how they inspire me, and that mama bear whom I haven't met and I hope to. Yeah. So that's the story.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, yeah, but the book is available on Amazon, so that's for one thing I can
Yes.
corroborate
Yes,
on.
it is.
The other factor, there are two, as you said, there are two protagonists in this. The one is the, of course, the forest guard, and one is the central character, the mama bear. You spoke briefly. I just wanted you to touch upon the topic of forest guards. They haven't been much highlighted. If possible, they have been reviled in a lot of popular media for kind of for whatever reasons that we know. But in your own experience as a conservationist, and you have been part of so many, you've traveled almost all across India. What has been your experiences with the forest guard themselves, and what are the challenges that you think why don't we know more about them, or why don't we respect them more?
So this is a subject which is very, very close to my heart, uh, and it's something that I hope to work on more. I hope to bring their stories. I already have these stories in my head, and I want to, about them. But some 3 years back, perhaps I did a story for India Spent, the portal, news portal, news analysis portal, which said that India is the deadliest country for rangers as forest guards, or those working on the front line of forest and wildlife protection are called, in the sense that the number of people we lose protecting our forests, protecting our wildlife, protecting our rivers, our diverse ecosystems from a whole range of threats. They could be poachers, they could be people, miners, mining even things like sand, which is so it's something we don't even hear of. We don't know, how these people imagine staying in a remote. I've been to areas. I remember going once to Rajaji, I think, and and there was this very long back, Rajaji Tiger Reserve, that time National Park in Uttarakhand. बहुत पुरानी बात है. And this guy was there alone in a choki, just because his companion was on leave for over a month or two. तो अकेला था एक चौकी में. Imagine spending time alone or even with two more people in a forest where there's no electricity, no entertainment, living away from your family. You face dangers from सांप निकल जाता है and काट लिया तो अब बाहर कैसे जाओगी? You're miles and miles away from medical help. So there are tremendous challenges these face. I remember trying to get to a forest choki, Nandor Wildlife Sanctuary, again Uttarakhand. We had to cross 23 streams. Twice we tried, we couldn't because they were swollen with water. हम लोग चल के जाने की कोशिश करी, जिप्सी में गए, ट्रैक्टर में गए, even that we failed. और वहां पे एक फॉरेस्ट गार्ड को भालू ने अटैक कर दिया था. And I mean, how do we get him out? I mean, these are and the commitment of these people to wildlife, most of them, is just so inspiring. And the sacrifices they, conflict ke time pe, jab human tiger conflict aata hai, that's a huge challenge because people who are, distressed क्योंकि टाइगर ने कोई बैल को मार दिया या हाथी ने घर बर्बाद कर दिया, कभी लाइफ भी चली जाती है. The anger of the people, the angst of the people comes on the forest guards. So hats off to them. I think each one of us, I can tell you many inspiring stories. We don't have the time. But आप लोग कभी भी जंगल जाएं, if any of you go to a forest, please take the time out to say hello to them and tell them you appreciate their work. I think as a country we need to recognize them. We need to appreciate what they do, to motivate them. So we owe them the tiger and our wildlife. Yeah. So yeah.
No, yeah, beautifully said, Prerna. And this is what especially in the times today when we are talking so much about things about protecting forest, our diversity, and everything. They are the warriors that are standing right at guard. So, jumping from this forest guard to the other central character, the sloth bear. Right? I'm assuming it's a sloth bear. Which has not been, we haven't, in India, we have spoken so much about the tigers all the time and the elephants and all, but nothing much on the sloth bear. So can you just tell us something about the species and what kind of attracts you to the bear itself?
So I'm not a sloth bear expert by any stretch of imagination. I'm not an ecologist. I did run this book through the, expert on sloth bears who studied the species for a long time. कि भैया कोई भूल हो तो please देख लीजिएगा. Having said that, I've been very, what attracts me to animals. Sloth bears are actually endemic to the Indian subcontinent. And like most species, they are threatened, because of habitat loss, fragmentation. They are threatened on the live trade, क्योंकि आपको याद होगा एक जमाने में मदारियों को भालू लेके आते थे and they used to dance, और उनको ट्रेन किया जाता था by hot coals रख के. वो तो हम सोचते डांस कर रहा है, but that poor chap was trying to escape the heat जो live coals से होती थी. Though it has stopped more or less thanks to the work of a lot of people, it still persists in some corners. Besides, they're killed. I'm sorry to be so graphic. There is for gallbladder, which is supposed to cure some diseases according to some traditional medicine. So they are threatened. उनकी range कम हो गई है. Conflict इसलिए, and also they come in conflict with people because there are some foods that we share. लोगों को भी महुआ पसंद आता है लिकर के लिए. और भालू को भी पसंद आता है, वो भी उसको पी के कई बारी मस्त सा सोया पड़ा रहता है. So Mahua season में, the both people and the bhalu are looking for the same thing. There are other fruits we share. They like honey, we like honey. And there's so and उनके senses थोड़े कम हैं. We might come वो जब तक we might come very close to them and they suddenly realize, oh my God, there's a person around, and panicky, they might attack you. So, but most animals, what attracts me to animals is, so not just sloth bears. What attracts me to them is that they are, I mean, there's so much to learn from them. They're so mysterious, and there's a, they're not tamed by man. They go about, there's an innocence about them. It's, and in one sense, and I think when we say marginalized, तो उनसे ज्यादा तो कोई marginalized नहीं है ना, because they really have no voice. जब हम उनके जंगल ले लेते हैं, we never ask them. They are the, no one goes and asks them कि should we cut their forest. They are the silent stakeholders. So whenever I write anything, I speak for the animals. That's always been my mantra, that I'm their voice, and they are my constituency. So as far as bhalus are concerned, oh man, I have seen them, वो दो बच्चे, माँ चलती है with two kids, and they're like, you just want to on their back, and it's just, it's a rare sighting. And I remember a particular incident. I was recently in Satpura National Park. तो मैं गाड़ी में थी in a gypsy, and my chashma fell, or I think it was the camera lens which fell. So I went down to take it, and suddenly I feel a hand on my back saying कि बिल्कुल हिलना मत. तो मैंने ऐसे ऊपर देखा, and you know how an open gypsy, it's open, there's nothing, and just at my eye level there was a bear. I mean, she was so close, and I knew she was a she because I could see the cub in the background, just some 20 paces away. She was so close, perhaps as almost as close as the laptop is now, that I could feel her breath in my face. And I had my mobile in my hand. I think I pressed with the video, but I didn't because my hands were shaking. I was shaking. Fear, excitement, I don't know. But that's what I respect about animals. She could have done anything to me, but she just looked and sort of assessed. And while I was shaking with whatever, she just went away. And these moments that you get with these wild animals are so precious. That's what again inspires you, and energizes you, and sort of renews your commitment that I'll do whatever I can to ensure they stay wild, they stay free. Right.
So,
Yeah.
Prerna, you have been a voice of conservation for a long time. As you said, you are a voice for the animals in this thing. But in India, there's a big debate about conservation versus progress. Animals need to be confined for their natural minerals that are there. Things need to be cut to make highways right across these parks. So how does one balance this whole debate between progress and protectionism?
that that needs another hour of conversation. So, but yeah, my Vanishing readers or listeners, please read the Vanishing. That will give you a detailed idea of what I think about this. But briefly, so this is actually the crux of what I like to do, as in this is my area of where I focus on how we need to protect wilderness from, and this whole I think a false debate or of development versus conservation, because a when you see a balance, what does a balance mean? That you kind of have both things in perspective, right? That there's some kind of a balance. But when we are talking about development projects, in forget forests, in protected areas, India has 5% of its land as protected area, terrestrial. which is a third of the world average, which is 15%. And even if we look at our neighbors, Bhutan kind of protects in some way or the other 50%. Nepal has 17%. So India is thoda piche. And usme bhi 5% already has highways and dams and villages and temples and canals and मतलब जो नाम ले लो है उस protected area में. So effectively 2%. उसमें भी when you have, I was part of the National Board for Wildlife and its standing committee which used to look at projects कि भैया ये रोड जाना चाहिए कि नहीं, say in Kanha Tiger Reserve, and one had to take a decision. So if you look at whether yes or no, considering its impact on wildlife, it was the National Board for Wildlife. But if you look at the clearances given to such projects, there are रिजेक्शन रेट इज लेस देन 0. मतलब 100 में से 99% प्रोजेक्ट चला जाता है. ठीक है, तो आपका क्या बैलेंस की बात कर रहे हैं? इफ यू, आई मीन, आई कैन गिव यू 1000 स्टैटिस्टिक्स. आई डोंट वांट टू बोर दी लिसनर्स, बट व्हाट we need to consider is two things. एक तो बैलेंस की बात करी, सॉरी, 3 things. बैलेंस का मतलब होता है कि हाँ, एंड ऑल्सो व्हेन वी से बैलेंस, यू नीड टू कंसिडर इकोनॉमिक advantages as against the ecological costs and social costs. When you are splintering a forest, या आप 80 lakh trees drown कर रहे हैं, as they are now proposing in Andaman and Nicobar, or you're drowning the heart of Panna Tiger Reserve by a dam. What are the ecological implications? What do we lose in terms of carbon sequestration? What do we lose in terms of watershed? Look, we are seeing the damages of Himalayas mein, or all across the landslides. We are witnessing extreme weather events. Why is this happening? Because we have disturbed the ecosystem. We are blasting through Himalayas. We are, 4-lane highway, Himalayas, such a fragile ecosystem, such a fragile mountain. kahin par hum the foundation stone of Project Tiger was laid in Corbett. वहां पे हमको हाईवे बनाना, उसके अंदर जहां पे highest density of tigers है worldwide, one of the highest densities, and elephants. So somewhere we have to say no. And trust me, हर जगह हमको 6 लेन हाईवे 8 लेन हाईवे नहीं चाहिए. हमको आधा घंटा जल्दी हर जगह नहीं पहुंचने की जरूरत है. There are a lot of other considerations that come into play here. Political, economical, not even economical. So many things that I've come across don't even make economic sense. Forget ecological. तो ये बहुत, और कहाँ से हम डेवलप करेंगे अगर हमारे पास पानी नहीं रहेगा? ये भी सोच, forget development. How will we survive? And we need the Himalayas. We need the oceans to breathe. Oceans give us 50% of our oxygen. The forests give us 50% of what we breathe. We owe to the oceans and the forests. अगर हम उनको खत्म कर देंगे, पोल्यूट कर देंगे, एसिडिफाई कर देंगे, काट देंगे, स्प्लिंटर कर देंगे, उसको रोड्स और सबमर्ज कर देंगे, we can't survive. What do we want? We want to give a beautiful word to our next generation, right? We want them to see tigers. We want them to listen to see fireflies. There's such, listen to the sound of birds. It's so fascinating. नदी में
मगर
जाके,
मगर प्रेरणा, मैं आपसे बोलूँ, हाईवे हाईवे के अंदर आपने टाइगरों के लिए अंडरपास तो बना रहे हैं ना? अब तो कितनी जगह अंडरपास बन
बट
रहे
यार
हैं.
एक अंडरपास बना दिया सारे भारतवर्ष में, उससे क्या होगा? वो जब हम अंडरपास, आपको वो एक, ये आपका फॉरेस्ट है, उसमें आप 3 हाईवे ले जाएंगे और कहेंगे हमने 6 अंडरपास बना दिए. जो आप, मैं पूछती हूँ कि आप पढ़े लिखे इंसान, आपकी नहीं बात कर रही, जब जनरल पब्लिक की बात कर रही हूँ, पढ़े लिखे इंसान, हम कभी रूल को फॉलो करते हैं कि ट्रैफिक यहाँ आ रही है, रेड लाइट है, हमको अभी नहीं जाना है, ग्रीन लाइट है, अभी नहीं जाना? हम टाइगर को क्या समझाएंगे, बेटा यहाँ से नहीं, ये तेरा रास्ता ये है, 4 किलोमीटर आगे तेरे लिए एक अंडरपास बनाया है, जो शायद, और वी डोंट कंसिडर द एनिमल. गौर इतना बड़ा जानवर है, हर्ड में जाता है. विल द अंडरपास टेक केयर ऑफ दैट? हाथी नीचे से जाएगा कि ऊपर से जाएगा? क्या उसको वाइब्रेशन जो होती है उसको रोकेगी? So the first rule of any such development needs to be, can it be avoided? What is the ecological cost? Are there alternate routes? हमने कभी seriously नहीं consider किया. सबसे simple है, फॉरेस्ट लैंड ले लो, परमिशन तो मिल ही जाएगी, पैसा भी बच जाएगा, लैंड एक्वायर करनी नहीं पड़ेगी, लगाओ इस पे, और जो टिम्बर कटेगा उसका अलग पैसा. आई एम सॉरी, दिस इज वेरी सिनिकल, बट इट्स अ फैक्ट ऑफ लाइफ. द अंडरपासेस, mostly there might be one or two exceptions, serve, it's a token thing. We don't make those keeping the interest of the or the ecology or the behavior of the wildlife. वो करेंगे तो, और हम जब एक ओवरपास पूरे दिल्ली के ऊपर से लेके जा सकते हैं, सो मेनी फ्लाईओवर्स, इतना लंबा फ्लाईओवर हम क्यों नहीं सोचते जहां बहुत ही जरूरी है, जहां बहुत ही जरूरी है. फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल हैज टू बी अवॉइडेंस एंड ऑल्टरनेटिव. Only if it is critical, then the best of mitigation measures, keeping the ecology and the behavior of the animal in mind, all the wildlife that uses it. But I'm sorry to say this is rarely ascribed to, and that's my effort in life.
नहीं, आपने शायद अपनी you had mentioned in your book Vanishing that till animals, you had quoted someone that till animals have their voting rights, they will always be,
कुछ नहीं करना.
So yeah, so we were speaking about tiger and the possibility of them using the underpass. Let me come to your book that was supposed to be the the highlight. When I grow up to be a tiger, yes, this wonderful, beautiful book.
हाँ,
So tell us about this book. This tells a very beautiful story of the tea club, the tea cub. Sorry, and then we come to know about the kind of challenges that even the apex species, the tiger, face.
आपने अभी पहले कहा था कि भालू को टाइगर जैसे, इट्स नॉट सो, so what, so where does the sloth bear stand? But let me say this: yes, the tiger is, it's a national animal. We are committed, and the government has definitely done a lot to conserve. Commitment both दिखाई है. And I'm very, very proud that India is a global leader in tiger conservation. We have the maximum number of tigers. Having said all of that, we two things. A, we need to raise each species to the level of the tiger. They're equally important. ऐसा नहीं है टाइगर ही बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, लेपर्ड नहीं है, भालू नहीं है, वो इंडियन पिट्टा नहीं है, हॉर्नबिल नहीं है. They all play a very critical role in that large eco processes, ecosystem. They are a critical part of that whole diversity that we have. और टाइगर भी बहुत प्रिकेरियस पोजीशन में है. मैंने अभी आपको बताया हाउ रोड्स आर टियरिंग थ्रू, say the Kana Pench corridor, and just about every reserve they are being. Rajaji में अभी 6 के 8 lane highway बन रहा है. Corbett, it's being threatened. There is the Panna Tiger Reserve is going to be submerged by river linking. Equally, हमने टाइगर रिजर्व का नाम भी नहीं सुना होगा, पलामू टाइगर रिजर्व, वहां पर भी there's going to be a dam. So there are all these issues. So you know what, I'm an accidental writer for children actually, because these stories have just happened. I've never started to sit down, मुझे बच्चों के लिए लिखना है. I'm actually a little nervous of children also. मुझे लगता है कि कुछ सवाल पूछ देंगे जो मुझे ढंग का आंसर नहीं आएगा. And I'm more comfortable like challenging adults, politicians, on their terrible policies about conservation. But innocence of a child, I don't want to shatter it, if you know what I mean. तो मैं एक accidental writer हूँ, but ये भी story, I saw these tiger cubs once, very long back in Bandhavgarh, I think. छोटे से थे, बिल्कुल so terribly cute. I mean, I shouldn't be using these words for tigers, but they were बिल्कुल एक वो किटन की तरह, और अम्मा थी उनके साथ में. And she was sleeping, but she was keeping one eye out. Okay, people are there. I should be, vigilant. I should be alert. दो तो शांत थे बच्चे. There was one naughty one. So it would come up, like it would come, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता यूं आएगा नजदीक, और वेरी क्यूरियस कि कौन है क्या है. एंड जैसे वो नजदीक आएगा एक थप्पड़ पड़ेगा अम्मा से, चट, एंड इट वुड लाइक स्करी बैक, एंड देन इट वुड वेट फॉर ma to fall asleep again, and when it believed कि अम्मा सो गई है, there it would come again, very curious. And that got me thinking that tigers are they're bachas like us, yeah, like they have curiosity, they are playful. सबकी nature है. Two of them are least bothered, यार सोते हैं, थके होंगे, whatever. This one was curious, a bit of a brat, and माँ से थप्पड़ पड़ा. That also, you one back from her paw, but I suppose very gently, because one back from her paw would be quite powerful. And also, it makes me think, okay, what are the challenges I could see? कि even though बांधवगढ़ is so well protected, edges में ही गांव है, वो बड़ा होगा. It was a male cub. बड़ा होगा, it will seek new territories. And there are people. In fact, that was, I didn't even write of all of that, but that was playing on my mind, and I thought, okay, book 2 when it grows up a little, but that's yet to happen. And you just think, what does, हम लोग कहते हैं हमको पायलट बनना है, टीचर बनना है, IAS ऑफिसर बनना है, कंजर्वेशनिस्ट बनना है, whatever it is, वाइल्ड लाइफ फोटोग्राफर करना है. What does this one want to be? Just wants to grow up to be a tiger. And that thing stayed with me. When I grow up, I want to be a tiger. Or what will happen? What if the mother doesn't survive? And I've seen this tragic situation ever so often. माँ ट्रेन के नीचे आ गई, कट गई ट्रेन से, पोचर ने मार दिया, वो एक्सीडेंटली वो इलेक्ट्रिक लाइन लगाते हैं कि villagers might do it to frankly kill wild boar or any such species के जो खाने आते हैं, मतलब crops खाते हैं. Usually you'll have wild boar or deer and everything coming raiding crops, रात को खाने आते हैं, तो वो ये लगा देते हैं. Sometimes also to kill them to eat, game जो हम कहते हैं. तो कई बार बहुत एक्सीडेंटली टाइगर्स भी आ जाते हैं, लेपर्ड्स भी आ जाते हैं, हाथी भी मर जाता है. तो मैं सोचती थी कि इनकी अम्मा चली जाए, हमने देखा है, तो बच्चे तो गए ना, तो बच्चा क्या सोचता होगा, तो बैठ के लिख दिया. वो भी एक अलग कहानी है. that it eventually was read by, once a kid came to stay with me, like to spend the day. And again, mine is a very child unfriendly household in the sense TV भी नहीं है और गेम्स नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. मैंने कहा इसको इंगेज कैसे करूंगी मैं. which was a very sweet kid. किताबें पढ़ी, फिर मैंने कहा चल, you read something I've written, you read something, मुझे बता. And she, do you like it or you don't like it? उसको रेट कर 1 to 10. She gave me a very good marks. She gave me good marks, so I said ठीक है, तो टेस्ट पास हो गया. And then I sent it to a publisher, and there it got published. So this was actually, and bless that kid who's now grown up to be a fine young woman. So she grew up to be a fine young woman. And yeah, so tigers are so beautiful, so gorgeous. It's, I define my life as before tiger and after tiger. So though if you ask me, the animal I respect most are perhaps elephants. So yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's what I was coming to. In your most of your book covers, I think so. अभी तक टाइगर सबसे ज्यादा रहा है, उसके ऊपर.
Mm. Mm.
आपकी एडिटेड बुक पे भी टाइगर का ही था, if I'm not wrong. The one. So the tiger
Yeah,
happens to be. And I was coming to that. Now that we have covered bear, we have come to tiger. Your fascination with tiger. This elephant. What is this Hathi-Sathi Foundation that you're
I'm
the
just back from there.
okay.
So elephants. I don't know if any of you out there, I'm sure many of you have spent time watching elephants. They are such amazing animals. They have a family. They're social. उनकी family हमारी तरह होती है. And matriarchal है, so not so much like us, but their herd that group is led by a matriarch, and बच्चे होंगे, फिर माँ होगी, मासी होगी, बच्चे, the masis and all will look after the adult, the elder brother or sister will look after the young one. It's a very, it's and they're so intelligent. I've seen this. I mean, I can tell you endless tales of how and they, think like, oh God, क्या हुआ?
सुनाई दे रहा है?
नहीं रे, ये कहाँ गया? हाँ, it got sort of cut, I think, in between. It just, sorry, give me a sec. Yeah.
Yeah.
So elephants, I remember एक particular incident बताऊंगी आपको, just to, that there was a forest guard again was telling me about this. कि ये शायद पलामू में था. During the rains, the nala which the animals would cross, nala being a stream, the animals would cross आराम से, but during monsoon it swelled up. So the guard was on a patrol. अपने 2-3 लोग पेट्रोल पे निकले थे, which they do for protection, etc. गश्त जो कहते हैं. So they saw that there was a herd of elephants. उसमें माँ भी हैं, मतलब young were there, elders were there, about a group of 12-15, 10-20 का group, they told me. And it was trying to see whether they would be able to swim across. There was a bridge. It was a flimsy, जो होता है usually forest में लक्कड़ का, ऐसे ही एक टंगा हुआ, बिल्कुल ही flimsy. So what they did, the matriarch came. They know who the matriarch is. They've seen the herd since years. They know who leads the group. वो अपने पैर से ब्रिज को टेस्ट कर रही थी, ठक 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 ठक, बहुत देर तक करती रही. 2 पैर रखे, वापस आ गई. Then she I assume must have communicated with another elder. वो swim करके they went to the other side of the river, the stream. The matriarch then started pushing the young kids, the calves, जो छोटे बच्चे थे, उनको they started guiding and gently pushing them over the bridge. Perhaps they realized कि ये हमारा वेट नहीं लेगा बड़े हाथी का, छोटे का ले लेगा. छोटे हाथी उधर गए, and that they don't panic and go into the river कि भैया अम्मा तो वहां है, everybody is there. There was another sentinel over there to comfort the kids when they came. And then once all the kids were there, the adults swam across. They could have swum across, a young one could have swum away. So there are these amazing stories that how they think each thing through, they work collectively, and they are so emotional. मतलब जो अगर एक बच्चा ट्रेन एक्सीडेंट में मर गया है, 2-2 दिन 3-3 दिन माँ वो रेलवे लाइन छोड़ती ही नहीं है. She'll charge at them. I've seen mothers lose their lives, because of trying to save the kids from the railway line, even if it is a dead one. So they are just amazing animals. And Hathi-Sathi, I'm director. I'm very proud to be a director, though I don't contribute much to this particular effort. It is Hathi-Sathi Foundation, North Bengal में है. Very fragmented area, in the sense के forests बहुत fragmented हैं. तो हाथी बेचारे को कोई forest नहीं है कि where they can. So the छोटे-छोटे forest हैं, and they are usually in human habitation areas, जहाँ से हर जगह उनको चेज किया जाता है. They are chased everywhere, उनको हल्ला करके, क्रैकर्स करके. And what Hathi-Sathi does is, within it's a tea estate, नक्सलबारी टी एस्टेट. तो वहां पे उन्होंने, it gives sanctuary. हाथी जब उधर आ जाता है, because it lies on a corridor connecting two small forests. तो वहाँ चौकीदार हमने ट्रेन किए हुए हैं, which keep the people away, gives a safe distance from the elephants, so they're not disturbed. थोड़े शांति में रहते हैं. We have made a sort of what we call an elephant pool, essentially a water hole, वहाँ पानी लेते हैं. We are doing a rewilding project over there. तो थोड़ा part of the tea estate is being rewilded. Native species से तो हाथी वो जंगल में मतलब शांति से it can pause. So because it is just being chased, उसको safe passage मिले जहाँ वो disturb नहीं हो. Plus we do a lot of education बच्चों के साथ उनको plays and painting competition, telling them about elephants, wildlife, kabhi film dikhai, lot of fun activities with tea labor. We are trying to involve other tea estates in that area because tea estates and forests kind of, and now towns, highways, everything. So safe passage for elephants, safer for people is what we do at Hathi-Sathi. Look it up, Hathi-Sathi Foundation. It's a lovely experiment, and I hope that it's something we are others follow and that it continues with your support.
Interesting. Yeah. So I just wanted to raise one point with you. There's this great debate among experts, largely, that can animals be ascribed, human emotions, kind of anthropomorphic feelings? Do animals have feelings similar, and should we be doing that as individuals, trying to find similar things in them?
So let's put it this way. I mean, I don't know how many of you have dogs, but I did, and any of us who has had a dog, and it's a very simple thing. I'm keeping wildlife aside for a moment. We know that when we leave एकदम दुखी हो जाता है, so the world is coming to an end, हो जाता है, हो जाती है. When we come back, there is so much joy, as though so they feel pain, they feel uh, I mean joy, they feel emotions. So I think हमको ये कहना कि animals are like people is is not correct in many ways. But to just assume that they have no emotions, they don't feel pain, they don't have any agency is wrong, because I think it suits us because we cause so much pain to them. We think they are there for us to exploit, to use, to abuse, to serve our ends and needs, whether it be entertainment, food, or whatever it be, or scientific, whatever they are. But animals have agency, they have society, they have intelligence, they have emotions. These to suit their world, to for their survival, for their society. I mean, whales, for heaven's sake, have music. They have very evolved whale songs, the way they communicate. Each population has a different anthem, different language. Jo whale population of, distributed amongst the various, uh, seas may. So, so all of it. I mean, dolphins have agency. I just told you about elephants. I mean, so many of them. I mean, I can give you. We can't, and it's proven, established fact. Ke, they are that little elephants. Just say how soldiers in wars suffer from PSTD, post stress traumatic something, right? Uh, um, I don't know, just the stress that uh,
Yeah, post trauma.
soldiers
Yeah.
suffer. Yeah, that trauma they suffer post. And calves born in conflict situations, जो human elephant conflict है, they suffer from similar uh, uh, trauma. They suffer similar stress. They are more prone to conflict. They are more neurotic. They are more nervous. So to just discount it, to as I said in the beginning, to have this assumption that we are above all, that we are most intelligent. All animals have agency, all animals have emotions, they have a society of their own. So I think we have to go with an open mind, we need to, and an open heart, to appreciate and understand that there's so many fascinating books on this subject, on how parakeets, parrots, whales, dolphins, octopus. It's, I don't know if you saw that recent film. What was it? Right? Sorry, I again forget. I've got a very
Maybe
terrible.
my best friend, octopus, something
Yeah, yeah,
similar.
something. It's just amazing, and read up on it. I find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So Prerna, one thing, and you've touched upon this just briefly. You said you find writing books for children the most challenging aspect. You have also written very hard-hitting, non-fiction book, The Vanishing, of course, and it and so how do you kind of, what is the process? I would say, where is the difficulty that you kind of find in when you write from non-fiction and, of course, fiction, the ones that are there.
I, the I wish there was a. I'm not. I'm not a. I'm not being formally trained. My English was very poor at some point. So don't. I have a labor welfare personnel management degree, so I'm not got any training in journalism or writing or um, the process. I mean, it's not like you turn on some creative tap, uh, but certain things. I think first is you you need to have a curiosity, right? To you need to um, have experiences and draw from them. It does not always mean कि आप jungle घूमते रहो. And as speaking as a nature right, I mean someone who writes on nature in my life. I mean there's so much just outside your window, you know. If you have that curiosity to I mean, isn't it fascinating if you look at dragonflies, you know, who travel, some dragonflies travel all across Africa to come to your little patch of garden and drink water from that, you know, pani जो आप अगर बाहर birds के लिए रखते हो. So there are, I mean, there's so much that can inspire you. So keep, you know, you need to absorb, you need to listen, because कहाँ से आपको क्या आइडिया इग्नाइट करेगा, what might kindle some um, as far as fiction is concerned, I guess. I don't have any कि मैं सुबह 5 बजे उठ के लिखती हूँ और first 3 hours there's this, you know, I just sit and because there's no disturbance. No, um, it's a painful process in many ways. It's writing is not easy uh, um, because you give so much of yourself, and what you keep in mind is, see, you are have to you're engaging with a person you don't know, you've never met, you're never going to meet that person, you don't know who she or he is, और आपको उसकी attention पकड़ के रखनी है amidst all these you know, I mean, endless YouTube hai, Netflix hai, 5,000 amazing writers and books out there, but your writing must engage that person. So and for you, writing might be an obligation. I've got this story in me, so you know, वो कहते हैं ना, every person has a book in them. Sure, but the reader is not obliged to read you, and so you know that makes you very nervous, but also ensures that you pour in your best. You're not writing. Yes, you're writing for yourself in the sense that you have to be interested in it, right? You have to. It has to excite you. It has to um, engage you because आप इतना research करते हो on whatever. It might seem very easy, but behind everything, every writer will tell you how much of work has gone in. So that, and because one thing which is unforgivable is mistakes. I mean, they happen. We are people. I mean, you know, so mistakes happen, but you had better do your best not to. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, but you're writing for the reader. So keep it, um, you know. So these are some of the things that I always, and of course, read. No writer can afford not to read, and read everything and anything. I don't read only nature and wildlife books or whatever. I mean, I read I love reading crime fiction. It fascinates. I mean, I read chick lit. I read I you know, Indian writers. I'm not a very well read person, but I mean, it's all I do. As I said, I don't even have a TV at home. I mean, someone has to sit me down to watch a film. के gun लगा के बैठो देखो, which is not nice, but I just feel there's so many books to read. Why am I doing anything else? So I mean, all of this is goes into writing, and writing for children does not mean you are dumbing things down. You know, children are very intelligent. It's just that you have to uh, engage with them in that innocent, not innocent, in a way that, I don't know, just make it magical. Just let your imagination um, go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
you had,
Yeah.
you had also said one thing, Prerna, and this is very I want you to touch upon. When you're doing non-fiction, you are honest and at times
Sorry, I
honest.
lost you. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so
Sorry,
I was just
can you
saying.
just repeat that?
Yeah, so I'm saying, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was just saying you had touched upon this briefly, and I know this is very interesting aspect when you said in non-fiction you can be you have to be honest, candid, and oftentimes brutal in the way you present the facts. But when you're writing fiction, do you feel the responsibility that you have to kind of tone down your thing, be optimistic? You touched upon that briefly. So how do you manage this complete transition?
So in the Vanishing, which is yeah, I don't mince my words because I think, I mean, I've tried to keep it engaging because I feel that I don't want only wildlife people to read it. I want, and the crisis is here. You know, we can't say, "Arey, tiger numbers बढ़ गए, everything's fine," which is another story. But we have to, and we, I, so I always write to engage people who are not already converted. If one person who wasn't like a wildlife or already into the cause reads it, and they, I'm able to ignite, like perhaps make them care a little, I feel mera kaam ho gaya. So in non-fiction, when I'm writing, I am very but fiction I've only written for children. I hope at some point, I don't know if I ever get around to writing fiction for adults, but um, it's very difficult. Even when talking to children, it's very difficult because um, even when I read, I'm always you I so for to me to see, if I ever do see a film, it's like the dog must not die, right? That's a rule. तो नहीं तो नहीं देखना है. So you can't just always be uh, so I think I'm mindful of the fact that you do have to, and there is always hope. So things are very difficult. There is no you know shying away from the fact that we are in a crisis and things are almost to the point of no return. Having said that, we still have elephants, we still have tigers, we still have dolphins. So till the last tiger survives, still leaves still fall from trees and flowers still bloom and the birds sing. There's always hope, and that's what I cling to. And I don't know. There was a thought in my head that um, maybe I'll just come back to you where I felt it was so important to say, and obviously it just slipped while I was. So I think that's kind of, and what I try. Yeah, there it is. What I try to bring out, not just in my fiction for children, writing for children, but also in my, say, this one book. And I just love the cover. Does not only have the tiger, it has a great Indian bustard. It has a lovely frog out there. What I try to bring out is the nature, which is what we touched upon last question, right? It's the nature of animals. And I think that when people realize, acha, they also care for their children, or you bring out these experiences, incidences from wildlife, you talk about that, interesting research, you bring it alive. I think that makes people care. I think, I don't know, I could be wrong. So I try to always, in my effort is always that, to highlight or at least bring about the nature of animals in my writing. uh, Voice
Okay.
for wildlife, right?
Yeah. So one thing from there is I would like to ask is you reach out to an audience that is spans such a vast divide in terms of age. Why do you think nature writing for children is important as a genre? if you can touch upon that.
I got into this uh, because I read. I didn't have a mentor. I grew up in a city. I didn't have a mentor at that time. कि जो मुझे जंगल लेके जाते थे or whatever. I I did go to the forest and I was influenced by the nature around me. But what actually, I remember reading James Herriot, and I mean, the way I mean, it's not wildlife, but the way he brings those animals and their idiosyncrasies alive. Oh my God, I laughed and I cried, and it affected me. And Gerald Durrell, his book, the first one, My Family and Other Animals. Oh, I mean, hilarious. I mean, he's such an amazing writer. Then because his sense of humor, I love books which have a sense of humor. Another person who comes to mind is um, uh, oh God, Douglas Adams, Last Chance to See, writing about such a grim subject, animals which may not survive, which are going extinct. One of them has already gone extinct, the Yangtze River dolphin, and yet he makes you smile. So you're crying and you're smiling at the same time. So, I mean, if I could write like that, I would die in peace. But at that point, when I was a child, I remember reading about Jane Goodall, and I mean, imagine I was this young kid with a very strict household, and मतलब कहीं भी जाने के लिए 50 बार परमिशन लेनी पड़ती थी. तो and this woman who goes to Africa for heaven's sake to study apes. I just couldn't get over it. These things happened, and I mean, I actually wrote to her in a postcard and she had discovered this tool, right? That David the chimp had was to attract ants, right? And I had seen crows using the bark of eucalyptus to drink water from our bowl. पानी नीचे चला गया था तो उसको वो नहीं जा पा रहा था. So it used that eucalyptus bark, and I was so excited. I was a kid, well, not that much of a kid, 8th, ninth maybe, but quite innocent. Those times were innocent, no internet, nothing. I remember writing in a postcard to Jane Goodall, South Africa, Gombe, South Africa, something कि मैंने ये discovery करी है. You know, I actually thought I would become this very famous person, but nothing happened. But that was how I was influenced. M. Krishnan, we used to wait for statesmen. 3 दिन बाद आता था train से. Because he used to write a country notebook. F.W. Champion, such an underrated writer. But in the 1930s, he writes about whether photography interferes with the happiness of animals. As we now seeing how, photographers, unethical photographers. I've got the best of photographers as my friends, and they're great people. But there are unethical at that time he writes. Imagine he writes about curiosity in animals. So I think writing is so powerful. It is and one of my editors, God bless him, when I first joined a newspaper, made me realize the power of the word. आप जो लिखते हो, I mean, one day I used to write this nature column for children. और मैं तो एक भी मेरा preserve नहीं, अभी तक मुझे पता नहीं है कहाँ है. But one day this kid came, each column was carefully preserved in a foolscap, and I was so moved. I realized that what I'm writing is not thrown into the trash the next day. You know, it has an impact. So I think it's very, very important that kids read and read about nature, because unless that and there's so many amazing writers now, such a wealth treasure of books, yeah, and that will inspire us, and inspire kids and make them care and ignite their curiosity and make them go out there, and so I think, to me, they played a great role in actually um, doing what I do now. I was very idealistic. I thought writing would change the world. कि मैं लिखूंगी, you know how it is. And yeah,
But,
I
but
still,
yeah,
I guess, I still
the
believe.
little kid who wrote to Goodall now, she must be getting a lot of letters. So I think so that's a good starting that happen. So I know we are running out of time, Prerna, today, but we have some questions. I would love, there are a couple of readers' questions that are there. I will
Just
just,
two because I have to run. So then,
yes,
yeah,
quickly we'll
yeah,
just go through them. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so that's interesting. Can one make a living by writing nature books? I too want to travel across and write books about such.
Oh, I think me and Shashwat were discussing this earlier. It isn't very glamorous at all. Okay, now the one misconception is that conserving wildlife or writing about nature is very glamorous. I mean, 90%, 95% of my time, if not more, has been spent in very thankless jobs of preparing reports, sitting with officials, sitting with politicians, sitting on the computer, trying to, uh, churn out support from people, from politicians. You advocate, it's आप एक एक चीज के लिए इतना लड़ते हो. It's a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of admin kind of work. We are not on an endless safari taking photographs, writing. um, at least as a conservationist. Now, whether you can make a living out of just writing on nature, what can I say without discouraging you? Does that say something in itself? Um, I write to make a difference. To me, that is, and as I said, if it influences one person, I think my job is done. Um, that guides me. I do a lot of things. I used to bring out a bring out a magazine on films, Bollywood, for a very long time because no editor thought that wildlife के लिए कौन पढ़ेगा. तो मुझे किसी ने जॉब आज तक I mean, I'm not a full-time journalist for the past 10 years, but for 15 years that I was in full-time journalism, no one gave me a job for writing on nature. I did it on my time, on my money, while writing on other things, and they were very interesting. So mind mat close kariyega. You can do it, but do other things also. Do other things. I mean, I do conservation, I do writing. I used to work for an NGO. I worked as a editor. I used to edit, copy, produce pages, and then physically design and produce newspaper magazines, which was 9 took up 80% of the time. But मैं वो 20% को 50%, if I used to work 48 hours a day so that I could make my dream happen. You have to work at it. Just keep that fire alive and it will pay off. It pays off. Look, I got a PhD, a scholarship in Cambridge, offered to me. I think it was my body of work, right? So I haven't made oodles of money, very frankly, but I hope I have won some, some credibility, some goodwill, and it has taken me to wonderful places across India. Wonderful places. I've seen a part of India you can't imagine. I've met people who are much more committed, so much more inspirational than I ever will be. So there are a lot of payoffs beyond money. But if money is important, it is to all of us. Uh, you need to do other things as well till you establish yourself as a writer. Perhaps we are a long way off till books make money, in India. But be an Amitav Ghosh, yeah, there is hope.
Yeah. So just quickly, I know The Vanishing is a fascinating book with lots of facts. And how did you work on the research? And added question is, how much time did it take you? Quick response.
It's a body of my it's a product of the years of work that I've put in conservation. So I can't pinpoint कि मुझे कितना time लगा, because it speaks of my years in conservation, all that I've learned there. So that, um, uh, b the actual writing took me an year. I used to, जो दिन का काम है वो करती थी. रात को I would, I mean, I worked on this in the day also, but I used to do other stuff. I At that time I used to stay awake till 3, 4, just writing, editing, rereading, verifying facts. And I did that. I don't think I have it in me to to sit till 4 a.m. now, not even for my PhD. But I did it. So it took with my dog by my side. So God bless him. नहीं तो नहीं कर पाती थी. And so it took me an year of actual writing, and then of course the production time में और time लगता है because it keeps going back and forth, back and forth. But I myself edited and re-edited till I was sick of it. नहीं पढ़ना एक बार और. But the research also, that with year and I would say 2 years, because 1 year of intense research and 1 year of actual writing. So yeah, and जितना भी आपकी emotion attached to wildlife on your work, what's very important is that it has to be based, even whether you're doing conservation, whether you're writing, it has to be based on science, it has to be based on knowledge, it has to be backed by facts. And for heaven's sake, back to another question, um, of writing, please keep a diary whenever you're what you observe. The biggest regret in my life is that I've never kept one, and I could have written 10 books had I kept one. But
Okay, just final thing. So there's
how
Akashdeep Roy, who has said that I'll just show it. I'll read it out. Exploring non-human agencies in North Bengal. Hathi Foundation is a great hit. Thank you for your contribution. There's another question which I think you've answered. Is you have a soft spot for elephant? Will your
will
next
my
book
next
be? Yes.
I have to get my PhD out, yeah, in the next 2 years. I don't think I'll be able to write a book in the next 2 years. And I really regret that, because much as writing is difficult, I do enjoy it. And yes, I owe the elephants a book. So sometime.
Yeah. And the final thing is, I think so. You've answered sad state of affairs. Do you get sad? Are you hopeful about the future? Is what made so motivates. तो आपने
Yes,
बोल दिया.
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's very, very difficult. You know, you see a lot of the projects that we had stopped when we were in the national board. We did could, and it, as I said, na कि project के लिए आते थे, and when we used to assess what its impact on wildlife is, and it is a lot of struggle and fight that me and my fellow members had to do to stop a project. All of it got cleared once we were off the board, when the next board came, for whatever be the reasons. And it was not, I felt कि हमने किया था और ये, but just to see that, and not just this, even otherwise, when you fight for something or you hear कि यहाँ पे 6 हाथी मर गए because railway track के नीचे आ गए, or a park that you had visited is now going to be dissected into 4-lane highway जाने वाला है, train broad gauge hogi, you know what the impacts are going to be, you know how the animals are going to suffer. It kills you. I'm not going to deny that. It gives me so many sleepless nights. It's because I feel I have failed them. Maybe I've not done enough. And you, how much ever you keep emotion aside, when you fight, you're there because you care, right? Otherwise it's difficult, because you are seeing all these tragedies unfold, and you know what the consequences are going to be. And you must read Aldo Leopold, who says, it is there. Let me please quickly read that. One of the quotes I use in my book, The Vanishing. If you give me 2 minutes. One of the penalties of an ecological education is that one lives alone in a world of wounds. Much of the damage inflicted on land is quite invisible to laymen. An ecologist must either harden his shell and make believe that the consequences of science are none of his business, her business also, but he or she must be the doctor who sees the marks of death in a community that believes itself well and does not want to be told otherwise. And that pretty much sums it up. Having said, given you this very grim picture, I just said, I never ever give up hope. If I had given up hope, I wouldn't be still be writing. I wouldn't still be fighting. है ना? क्योंकि till there are wild tiger, till there are wide spaces, you there is hope. Till the last tiger is there, I'll be fighting for it. Till the last forest is there, I'm sure I speak for a lot of the conservation community, and conservationists alone cannot do this. It is everybody's cause. All of us need clean air. All of us need clean water. है ना? तो उसके लिए आप वो पहली चीज जो भी इस फील्ड में आना चाहता है या और it gives you so much energy when you go into a forest. It inspires you so much. You feel every struggle is worth it. I mean, some of I just met a tiger when I was in Tadoba. So gorgeous that woman was. So absolutely gorgeous. And she's looking into my eyes and I looked into her. That 1 minute, that 1 microsecond, it makes everything worth it, right? So the one thing that is there, that you never walk away from them, ever. It's not an option. End of story, period. So there is always hope, and I hope that I am, till I breathe, I fight for them. I do all that I can.
Thank you so much, Prerna. And I'll remember this line. Till the last tiger is there, we'll fight for them. So that's a fascinating note to end this
And
talk.
I hope we don't come to that. Sorry. I hope it doesn't come.
No, but we won't leave the fight either. Yeah.
No,
So
no, no.
yes. So with that, we come to thank you so much again for your time. I know you're a hard pressed, and I know this conversations we can find so many different tracks and keep talking for a long, long time. I hope we get a chance to do that again. For everyone out here, when I met the Mama Bear is available, and it's enjoy, and it's possibly post a video. Prerna, she's very active on Twitter as well.
Yeah, please give photos with the book. Tag me, give me feedback. Hopefully not very critical, but critical is also welcome. And yes, it's available along with my other books on Amazon. I would urge you to also take the time to read The Vanishing, to acquaint yourself with the crisis that wildlife is in. And Shashwat, that was so amazing. I'm very grateful to you to give me this opportunity. Also to Azim Premji University, Harini, who's also I know has been instrumental, and someone. So thanks a lot to the audience for
Yes.
giving time to listening to wildlife, listening to
Thank you so
wild
much.
stories. Thank you very
Thank
much. Thanks.
you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.